Ladies and gentlemen, hello. I have the pleasure to have Wada here with me again. Wada doesn't need an introduction. Hello, Wada. Thank you for accepting my invitation. We had great video a couple months ago on the knowledge of Rudolf Steiner, which you understand so well. People really loved this interview. It was so informative. So that's why I'm inviting you again to speak about his philosophy, but more about our evolution and where are we heading now? What is the future promising us? Because so scary prophecies, what I cannot take it anymore.
Hello, Krasi. Thank you that you're goading me to go in that direction because I was just do astrology, but all my free time I just read esoteric knowledge and cosmology, and the one that I have found that is the fullest picture of all the cosmologies, all the philosophical teaching is anthroposophy, created by, it wasn't created, it was channeled kind of, or given to us by Rudolf Steiner, which is a continuation of Rosicrucian knowledge and continuation of Cathar and Bogumil knowledge and continuation of the Gnostic Christian knowledge. So this is, many people say that we in the West don't have proper esoteric knowledge because the East has incredible sources of esoteric knowledge. While Christianity on the surface is quite, the world was made in 7 days and kind of like mythology and story. But this was given to us like that because of the state of consciousness humans were 2,000-3,000 years ago. And it had to be told like fairy tales almost, which carry deep meaning. And even Christ said he'll send in a few thousand years or whatever, God will send his word again to explain to people when they're ready the deeper teachings. And Christ always taught a deeper esoteric side to his Christianity, but only his initiated students and continuation like Bogumils and Cathars knew those deeper secrets. But now creators and the hierarchies have decided humans have developed enough logical thinking, independent thinking to understand the scientific side of the creation. That's why anthroposophy through Rudolf Steiner was, and also anthroposophy, also Blavatsky and Annie Besant and Leadbeater also contributed to it through theosophy. But Rudolf Steiner said they could not see one important event, which was the incarnation of a spiritual being, Christ being on earth. They could not see it psychically, clairvoyantly, but because he had a very high level clairvoyance, he said when he started researching, he realized this was the pivotal event in human evolution, because till that time, humans were involuting. They were coming from spirit form and going deeper and deeper into the forms. When bodies were prepared for them, the spirit came deeper and deeper till the coming of Christ. And that was for 18 million years was involution. How long it takes for the spirit to enter fully into the body to build the shapes, the forms. It's not one day thing. And it's going to take us maybe hundreds of thousands, because the evolutionary path is shorter than the involutionary, because the evolutionary after the coming of Christ is conscious. Till now, till the Christ period, we didn't have a say, humans. You keep coming and coming, lives were especially, of course, there were different civilizations that were way more developed simultaneously with less developed. So some of them lived much longer, but usually the lifespan during the involution was fast turnaround, coming quickly. And even at some point during involution, humans were at the beginning stages, they were not aware they were even on Earth. They were not aware they were dying and being reborn, because they had a consciousness that was not focused on the physical, but they had no independent thinking, no logical thinking, no memory at the beginning stages. We'll pass through them. Maybe people will find it interesting. And ever since the coming of Christ, we've developed enough of independent thinking, and we have to win the coming out of matter, but with personal efforts. And of course, we're being helped by the sun, because the sun constantly changes its vibration that it sends. That's why they're trying to dim it, because that's the biggest stimulation. When your nerves are ready, when you've involved enough your higher nervous system, the sunlight itself is the one that starts activating the spiritual changes inside. But you have to co-create and help with that. The evolutionary stage, which we started 2000 years ago, and it will take a long time. It's not tomorrow we'll be in 5D like some
Oh,
people.
no.
Like some people say, tomorrow the earth will split in two, one will be in etheric forms, the other will stay on earth. I will show you what high initiates saw, how long this process will take. We have a few thousand years. And after that, earth
Oh,
again goes into actually more than a few thousand years.
Wada, you
1,000 years.
mentioned. Oh, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you, but please remember your thought. You mentioned the dimming of the sun. Did Rudolf Steiner predict their attempts to dim the
We
sun?
have hundreds of thousands of lectures and books. I have not covered all of them, but he
Oh, of
said
course
they'll
not.
try the forces. We talked last time about the forces of Ahriman, because Ahriman has been most active since the last 100 years, basically, since the invention of electricity, or the discovery of electricity, because Ahrimanic forces, which are antagonistic to the Christ forces, they work through technology, especially through electricity. I'm not saying electricity is bad,
No.
but it's necessary part of the evolution of humanity, those lessons. But he said that we'll be surrounded by such a soup of uh, vibrations that are man-made, and that those vibrations carry, which is electric EMF, that they carry the electric vibrations, Wi-Fi's, that they carry the Ahrimanic impulse, that it will be harder, very hard for people to have natural spirituality. And we see we're so disconnected, even from nature. We don't anymore dig in our gardens, watch the seasons. And when you're covered in the soup of EMFs, electromagnetic field, you become even more disconnected from natural evolution, where the Christ impulse works. Because the good forces, as they say, they go through nature. The other forces that try to create contrast for us, they work through electricity and at least Ahrimanic forces, that the main opponent now, the main, let's say, not blockage, but barrier for humans. And it's allowed, because without resistance, there is no growth, there is no evolution. It's allowed.
Oh,
Eventually, even Rudolf Steiner says, when humans evolve enough, we will save those beings from the other evolutions, Ahrimanic, Luciferic, that are testing us now. We will be their saviors, in a sense. Despite of what is happening, when we transform ourselves into our etheric body and so on. But I'm going to start from a little bit more further back. I'm going to share my screen, how it all
yes.
started. Because people say humans appeared in the last 100,000 years or something. No, if Rudolf Steiner and anthroposophy, psychically, he saw that from the very beginning of creation, with the first substance of the earth and the solar system, the human substance was there. We were part of the soup, like even science describes, we were some warm gas ball that hold the planets and the sun together. Our essence was there. So we're not some alien seeded race, nothing like that, that we're trying to be, again, misled, that we're some slave race created here. There was interference by others of lower evolution than the angelic hierarchies. But every time they interfere in human evolution through DNA and whatever, this branch of humanity dies out. Like they were, like in Atlantis, they were doing cadavers, mixing animals and whatever. I'm sure that, and there was interferences, but those ones, because they're not part of the natural evolution, they always die out. Only the natural, we're branch of the natural one. We're the ones that keep on going. But look, Rudolf Steiner said that Earth evolution started billions of years ago. Let me just remove something here. And he called them globes, but it was not truly a planet, Saturn, Sun, Moon, Earth. it was just esoteric names. So I don't want people to be misled by that. We'll just call them by those names because they were given esoterically. So the whole evolution of our solar system started with the Saturn cycle. And Saturn, because it was like a gaseous warm ball of warmth, there was no substance reaching to the Saturn sphere, you know, like where Saturn goes around the sun. It's huge. It's so basically our whole solar system, if we don't count Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So this was like a warm mass billions of years ago. It's nothing visible with the naked eye. You could not see it. It's just some kind of warmness. And all the planets were included in it, all the sun and all the souls of all the inhabitants, and but they're still at the level, and that lasted for billions of years. And it was created by very highly evolved beings, which are called spirits of will. They made a sacrifice. They emit substance from their own spiritual body that starts densifying and creating this warmth. This is the beginning. This was when the consciousness of humanity was like a mineral, like a rock. The consciousness that a rock has now, this is the consciousness of humanity. You can say pretty much no consciousness. It was just the first beginnings of the physical body, which was a kind of a warm substance. But the first thing that got created was started with the physical body of the humans, interesting enough. The souls, I don't know even in what kind of condition yet. And so that's why the body is the most perfect creation of God. Our ego, our astral body, our mind, these are the latest creations. They're the least intelligent design, or the least developed, let's say, the extremely intelligent design. But the body so far, because it started first, is the most intelligent. That's why we have to honor the body, not want to escape it, not want to suppress it, not want to disconnect from it. It's the most direct source to God. And the Saturn to the father energy, the God energy. And it's very, I would say, wrong when people try and say, I don't want to incarnate anymore. I want to escape my, I know life on earth is very hard, but the most powerful, the most perfect creation so far, the body. And after that, there was a pralaya moment after the Saturn. So a few billion years, nothing. This worm disintegrated. And then starts the sun globe. And you see it's always in 7 stages. The sun globe, it again repeats the Saturn period, but much faster, just like in an embryo. You repeat always the previous stage. So there is a big stage when everything in our solar system, it's non-existent again. It's into the astro, etheric, whatever. Then again, this warmth starts gathering. And then the highest peak that it achieves during the sun evolution, or the second globe, as we call it, is gaseous. It becomes gaseous. And the humans develop sleep consciousness, the consciousness of a plant. So now it's no longer mineral, like they pass through the mineral stage, they pass through the plant stage. And now we are kind of plant-like existence. Don't imagine that we were trees. It was not physical. The sun globe, it was in the astro. It was not even in the astro. It was, I think it was, in the astral. So
the plants are before us then. The plants appeared before us.
We were the plants before.
We were. Oh, okay.
We were first the mineral in the Saturn thing. Then we were, so if you look psychically, those billions of years ago during this sun period, you'd see mostly plant-like consciousness around.
I understand.
Sleeping consciousness, but these are, while at the same time, there are other beings doing their evolution during the Saturn period, which was billions ago. This is when the archai pass through the human evolution. They have consciousness. During the sun period, the archangels pass during the human evolution with consciousness, with understanding, but they don't ever have physical body like we do. Never evolution repeats. Those archangels that now are archangels, they never had physical body. They were just up to the astral, but they had kind of logical thinking and individuation like we're going through right now. a few billion years ago during the sun phase. Well, we only had our etheric body being built then. So we had the mineral body, which again was not physical. And the beginning of the etheric body was given to us by sacrifice, again, by the spirits of movement. These are very highly evolved hierarchies, way above archangels, archais, spirits of will, spirits of movements. They're the ones closest to the creator. And the life spirit is implanted into the etheric body, which is the buddhi, the buddhi, what Buddha developed. But again, we don't have real consciousness like plant life. And then comes the moon phase. And then there's a pralaya, which is a break for 1 billion years. And then again, it repeats the period, the gaseous form that gets first the warmth of Saturn, then the gaseous, gas-like manifestation to the moon stage. And again, this is not the moon, we're talking stage. It
Yes.
becomes liquid substance. The highest peak, the most densified gets only to liquid. And then humans have like reached the highest point there is towards like a dream consciousness, animal kind of, the way that animals have consciousness billions of years ago, ours was there. But we were never in physical bodies. We were only to the moon is in the etheric and astral again. And the angels during that period, they were humans then. And they evolve and they become angels at that time. When this period finishes, they finish their human phase and become angels. While the archangels become archai. So, so they each move a step. But during each of those periods, there is stragglers that never make it. Just like there may be some here archangels in the sun period that never could make it into archai or into archangels. So those that basically can complete the evolution in those big circles, they become the opposition that we call the demons, the opposing forces. They're not intrinsically evil. They just couldn't complete the evolution. And so they exist in that form that was meant for them billions of years ago. So they, on the sun period, the so-called Ahrimanic beings, the stragglers that can't complete the archangel phase, the human phase, they stay behind like Ahrimanic beings. On the moon phase, the angelic beings that couldn't complete the angelic phase from human to angelic, they were almost angelic but couldn't get angelic. They are the Luciferian beings. So the Luciferian beings are stragglers. They're higher than humans, but they are not achieved the purity of angels or the vibration. So they become Luciferic beings. They are angelic beings. They are Ahrimanic beings. They are archangels that never completed it, and stragglers. So Ahrimanic beings are kind of higher, a note above the Luciferian beings in power. And actually the ones in Saturn that stayed behind, they're called the Soratic beings. Soratic is they're basically the black sun. The Soratic beings, the archives that couldn't complete it, they turned into the Soratic beings, waiting for next, for the savior or for to do a different mission. And God allows it to happen so they can be like resistance. So the creator allows it. Those Soratic beings, that's once they start acting on earth, it becomes very, very dangerous. And they manifest right now in smaller ways, but through drugs, for example, through very destructive drugs, and through, what was found in the concoction was Soratic entities attached that was summoned. They were summoned with some ritual because 50 independent psychics, anthroposophists with high level clairvoyant abilities, independently researched the substance. And they were they said there were a lot of Ahrimanic entities, but they were Soratic. And they said, we've never seen this before. And they were describing them almost like some kind of metallic alien. They don't have real physical substance, but they said like there is almost like nothing alive, like it's metallic and it's very aggressive. But let's not go to there. So when the moon phase finishes, it dissolves, and again, it then starts finally the last phase. And this is what scientists only know. The Earth phase is from when our solar system started developing. It was first gaseous again, then it warm, then gas, then liquid, kind of. You can't really call it liquid, but it was first on the mental level, then the astral, then the etheric. And on the Earth, the fourth globe, it reaches finally solidity. Finally solidity. It repeats very quickly the previous four processes. And now the Earth is finally visible. It's on the 4D, on the fourth dimension, on the three
4D.
dimensions. Before on the moon, it was on the fourth dimension. The sun was on the fifth. Saturn was on the seventh. So you can't see anything. So you see what long preparations, how much love and how much incredible design there is to reach to this material, manifestation of the Earth. What an intelligent design it is. And on the Earth, each of those globes has 7 sub-periods, but we'll focus just on our Earth because it's been like, 4 billion years? And we can't be sure about time. So I don't think even a scientist talking in billion years is sure. But the first huge period, because each globe has 7 periods, each of those 7 periods has 7 sub-periods, or races, as we call it. And you see, everything goes in sevens because creation is complete. So the first one, we've heard a lot about Polarian race. The Polarian race that existed when everything was divine. They did not have physical body. The Polarians, they did not have yet consciousness like humans, independent thinking. They were more on the plant, like, again, level, mineral level. They were repeating the previous phases, but it was like beautiful. I don't imagine forests or anything. The Earth is still hot. It's starting to condense during the Polarian and Hyperborean period. It's just manifesting from the astral around that time. And it's like a ball of fire, just separated from the sun. Around the Polarian time, it separates from the sun, or Hyperborean time, sorry. It separates from the sun. And the first 2 phases, Polarian, Hyperborean, they no continents, there is no physical body yet. It's just still at the Hyperborean level, it reaches to the astral. And then Lemurian times is when the first physical body comes for humanity. The first physical body is able to condense. Around that time, there are lots of volcanoes. That's how they describe it. The dinosaurs are roaming around. It's super unstable. Only at very small places is the Earth stable enough for small groups of little tribes to start during the Lemurian time. And the animals, and humans don't come from animals. There were specially prepared bodies for them that started very much like animal they looked. But around the Lemurian time, the soul starts entering. So the soul and the etheric in the astral body and the spirit start, because they're 4 bodies. Once they start entering, that's in the Lemurian time. And it's called the fall. This is the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden, where the Bible's, not the Bible, but the first humans, it's Lemurian times. And they had animal-like consciousness during Lemurian times. Pretty much, they were not animals. They were not of the same evolutionary branch as animals, but they looked pretty similar, to animals, but they were stage higher. And during the Lemurian time is very interesting, because I'll share something else. 7 stages. Here's the Lemurian time. And this is when the division of the sexes happens. During the polar and Hyperborean time, until the middle of the Lemurian time, which is 18 million years ago, according to anthroposophy, 18 million years ago, the sexes start splitting. And that's a long time. I'm not sure if I can even fathom such periods. I think it must be faster than that. I don't. But this is, till then, humans could recreate each other, the first part of the Lemurian, by they were hermaphrodites. They had both sexes. They could self-regenerate, self-recreate, you know. And it's like, first it was by dividing during the Hyperborean time, which was more astral. Then the Lemurian, which became physical, was by eggs or something like that. And then the Lemurian times, the organs that this kind of atavistic early human used to procreate himself out of himself are changed gradually into the larynx and the brain. Because for the brain, the independent thought to develop, they take from the forces of the creative, of, let's say, the other sex is separated from you and turned into brain. So one keeps one sex and turns the other. So the sexual energy is directed towards the brain and the larynx, so we can talk. And that's the separation of the sexes. And the seeds of memory start during Lemuria. There was still very little, but mostly imagination is developed then. And at the second stage of Lemuria, from 18 million years ago, humans start looking how we are now. Man and a woman, and procreating, but they kind of, this is called the fall that happens in the middle of Lemuria when the sexes split. Actually, a little bit, they live like, it's like in paradise. And he was describing there was huge fruits everywhere, and humans were huge in size. He describes the forms in the Polarian period, Hyperborean, when they were just more astral and mental. They were like kilometers long, even though they didn't have physical body, but even in the astral, you know, in the Lemurian time, they were giants, basically. And the more evolution comes, the smaller the form with the involution, the smaller the form. The more we enter into matter, the smaller the form comes. But Lemurians were still giants compared to us. And this is, they still couldn't even talk. The larynx was just formed, but the first talking was no language and words. It was singing. Said they would make sounds, and it was the women who started singing. The women were the teachers then. And don't think a teacher in a school, think they would gather the group around them and they'll start singing to them and evoking sounds of nature. While the men developed different, and the women developed the imagination, which was the important quality to develop during Lemurian time, while the men were trained in very different way. And it was not humans just on their own. They had beings from a high evolution that were incarnated with them, leading them. And they knew it and they followed, like a kid follows a parent. And those beings, they were from a higher, what we would call now, highly developed previous civilizations. But the majority, the humans that were now here on Earth, we all come from this branch, you know, that was the babies then, so to speak. But there was others, almost like angels that could take physical body, incarnate through humans and so on. It's described in the Bible. And they were basically more evolved, definitely physically and spiritually, and they were leading humans. But it was kind of parallel. We needed those, you know, we needed those teachers. We were just babies then. But we were, and then Lemurian time is when we start using sex, just not just for procreation, like animals, basically, just spring comes, they procreate. We started using sex and sensual experiences as enjoyment, and that's the fall. It happened towards the end of the Lemurian time. Otherwise, before that, the procreation was happening at strictly times that the leaders would say, and intuitively they knew, and they had psychic abilities. Lemurians had incredible powers to, even though they didn't have rational thinking, they could affect matter with their life forces. It's not even their brain. If you can see some depictions of Lemuria, it's on the Easter Egg Island, those figures where they don't have a forehead, you know, they're like, the head is flat and the nose starts, because the brain hadn't developed. It just started in those Lemurian times. But they had incredible life force powers. They were like magicians, because they could, the Atlanteans as well, with they could manipulate the life force of the plants. They could make a plant which would look like magic to us now, but they could actually just focus their energy, and a plant would grow and give you fruit straight away. That's why it was like paradise. But towards the end of Atlantis, the last probably 30, 40,000, 50,000 years, we lost that ability as well. And each period was much longer. With each next one, it becomes shorter and shorter. The Lemurian, you heard, maybe something like 24 million years. The second part was 18 million. Atlantean, a few thousand. It gets shorter and short. Atlantean, maybe.
Shorter.
Yeah, and so it's very interesting how it decreases, the speeds up evolution. That's why I'm not sure how long till we, get out of the physical body again, but it will be much shorter period than coming down in. The Atlantean time is when memory reached its peak, because there was no memory before that. And incredible that the memory was so powerful that they immediately, when they would be born, say 40,000 years ago, whatever Atlantis was, they would remember, and the peak of it, at the peak, not at the end, they would carry the memories of all the previous generations. So they even say in the Bible, when they says Noah lived 900 years, or Adam, or whatever, it's because their generation, their bloodline lasted that long, and everyone carries the memories. It's like downloaded, whatever your great granddad 900 years ago did. Unless the bloodline gets interrupted, then a new strain of memory starts. They would carry it. So they couldn't invent anything new, but everything that was discovered or tried and done before that, they were incredible. They just remembered it, and that's how they built and worked. But it was never like a logical thought. Like, I give you different parts, put them together logically. Or you see something working, and as analogy, you make it, you transfer it from nature's analogy. No, it was only, and they were also still psychic in Atlantean and Lemurian time, so they could, basically, they would get the answer straight in front of them. But it is atavistic psychic ability. They could see all the entities. They could see angels, archives around them. During Lemurian time, they were almost like in a sleep consciousness on Earth. They were not interested much in the, they would come, they would see, yeah, I have a body, but most of the time I'm, in the higher worlds, and they would leave their body. Oh, they would come every 20, 30 years, a bit like small animals that tuck, 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 tuck. On the Atlantean, the lifespan increases, but again, they're not at all phased if they die, because it's conscious, kind of, they just step out of the body and they come back. So, but after the middle of the Atlantean times, they start changing, because one of the tribes, they're called the primal Semites, the first vestiges of logic starts being developed. And now the Manu is always the leader of each root race or culture, separates them from Atlantis. Before Atlantis was destroyed, 20,000 years before that, or 30,000 years before that, separates them and puts them in, according to Leadbeater, Annie Besant, and Rudolf Steiner, somewhere in Asia, and for 20,000 years, somewhere in the Takla-Maklan desert. It wasn't a desert then, it was beautiful greenery, whatever, and separates them, because from them will come the post-Atlanteans. All of us come from them that have developed after that. From each branch of 7, one becomes the root for the next one. And this primal Semites, they're 5th in order. There are 2 more after that. But from these, basically, pretty much all of our, and they develop. So the Manu there, when it separates them, teaches them to think logically, to develop the posterior, the frontal mind. While Atlanteans had mastered memory incredibly, like memory, now the post-Atlantean, everyone has to master thought. So we're in the 5th post-Atlantean time. Atlantis dies out. The last Atlantean race was the Mongols. At least that's how it's called. I don't know if it's the actual Mongols nowadays.
Maybe. There are no coincidences in the names, I think.
Yes, but anyone who is now here in this time, they've reached the consciousness that is necessary for the 5th Atlantean. And in the 5th Atlantean time, we have to develop wisdom first, not just thought and wisdom. And now let's break the post-Atlantean into its stages. Now it's going to start getting familiar. We're coming down to the familiar history. Atlantis ends with something in the Bible, Noah, the ark, and the rainbow, the flood. It's not that they really made a boat and put the animals, but a lot of Atlanteans escaped into Europe. This was the time till Noah. So Noah, this would be the primal Semites that was separated and prepared, and God puts in this story fairy tale, God puts a rainbow and says, I'm not going to destroy you again. Well, not until the 5th post-Atlantean period, because there are every 7 circles there is after that destruction. So that happens at the age of Leo, 12,000, 14,000 years ago. 12,000, 14,000 years ago, when Atlanteans, bam, bam, starts the 5th post-Atlantean. Let me say, here it is, the Earth, the Atlantean, the flood falls,
Yeah.
the Lemurian is the fall, the separation of the sexes, the Atlantean is up when it ends the flood. And Atlanteans reached very high level of science, not with like us now, computers and so on, but very high level, but only in their mystery schools were basically science. Back then, whatever for now is now science, and you study it at university, they studied in the mystery school. So they had advanced things, but not everyone, just the initiates. And the initiates messed up as well, part of them. Because, the destruction, they were abusing the natural forces because they still had access to the life force. They were using the life force of plants, animals, and doing those experiments. Now we no longer have access to the life force, the etheric force of plants and animals. Now in the post-Atlantean age, we can only, which is the 5th age, we can only work with the mineral, with the material. The Atlanteans could work with the etheric energy, which is the energy of growth. So they were first huge. They could make plants and animals change form and grow. The Lemurians could work with the astral, which was very powerful, but it's very hard for me to even imagine how it was happening. And we're in the 5th post-Atlantean, which started with the age of Cancer. I don't know if you can see it here. When the spring equinox was in Cancer, that was 9,000 years before Christ, or 8,000 till 6,000 years before Christ, when the first started. So this is the ancient Indian civilization that was extremely spiritual. Under the age of Cancer, it happened. They had the 7 rishis as their wise people. The 7 rishis, we have very little information coming back from them, but they were extremely wise, extremely spiritual. Most of the people, but all of them could still see the entities in the higher worlds. The beginning of religion starts in the first post-Atlantean age with the Indians, but they believe the world is Maya. They see its illusion because they have the ability to see the astral, and for them the world is like some joke. It's like you now watch Minecraft and you think it's a joke. That's how they felt it. Okay, I'm in a Minecraft, but the actual world is the other astral world. Just like when I look Minecraft now, it's okay, but that's me. That's the real world. Then we get to the Asian Persian culture. They had Zarathustra, the first original Zarathustra, 6,000 years before Christ. So 8,000 years ago, this culture is extremely old, the Asian Persian culture. And they started first working with the earth, and the idea of good and bad appears. Zarathustra gave the knowledge. He was their prophet. He was their wise man. He gave the knowledge. At each age comes a new teacher. The ancient Indian age was the 7 rishis, which were the highest initiates from Atlantis. They were the ones that carried the knowledge that they were, so they bring it to the ancient Indians. Ancient Persia is Zarathustra, high initiate from Atlantis again, much more highly evolved being than the others. he gives the idea of Ahura Mazda and Ahriman, and the light versus darkness. Ahura Mazda, that he taught, is the Christ spirit. The ancient Indians, they thought about the Christ spirit. They called him Vishwakarman, the highest of all. So they all speak about the Christ spirit that created the Christ spirit that created this whole shaboodle here, starting from Saturn. The Christ spirit is on top of all the archives, spirits of will, archangels, thrones. The top one, just before God, is this Christ entity. It's not someone who walked on earth 2,000 years ago. This was the top being, as they say. God is Christ is part of God. And they say this is Ahura Mazda. The ancient Persians say this is Ahura Mazda. Indians say Vishwakarman. Egypto-Chaldeans period comes, which is the age of Taurus. Remember, in Egypt, there's the bulls. There's those huge.
Oh yeah.
Also in later Indian, the bulls was very venerated. This when astrology gets given to us and so on. Actually, ancient Persian during the age of Gemini, the first written words, the first letters, the first alphabet appears, the age of Gemini in ancient Persian period. Egypto-Chaldean period, their prophet or the teacher of the age is Hermes. Hermes also gives the astrology and so on. And their interpretation of the creator spirit is Osiris. He is the Christ energy. Osiris, and they're saying, even the Egypto-Chaldean priests, they're saying the Osiris is coming to earth. He's coming, getting closer into the etheric of the earth. So they were expecting it. They were knowing that the sun being, the sun, because the Christ is the consciousness of the sun. The sun being is coming. The creator is coming. In Egyptian places, they're saying he's gonna incarnate, you know. Then comes the Greco-Roman period, which say 2000 from 4,000 years ago till the beginning of Christ, and even 500-600 years after. It never ends like that. It carries usually not just 2,000 years as an age. It carries usually 3,000, 4,000 years, because they, like, you know, while the Chaldean were coming, the Greco-Roman were here for 1,000 years, the Greek ones again. So there is like that. Well, the Greco-Roman continued to the 15th century, while the next one, which is Anglo-Saxon, has started for 1,000 years. So they kind of like that, never, you know.
Oh, of course not. Yes.
They're in waves that are just like we have certain tribes that are still at the consciousness of the Lemurians that live in the, you know, and they're truly attuned. They are miraculous, or to the Atlanteans. They don't look like them anymore, but they carry still some of the consciousness of that. So after that comes the Greco-Roman, which kind of the Christ being the most important event during the age of Aries, on the verge of the age of Aries and the age of Pisces, when they're changing, comes the teacher of the age of Pisces. Oh, the Greco-Roman teacher was Orpheus. He gave all the you know, every 2,100 years an avatar comes. Like Krishna, whatever, but the Greco-Romans, at least for that age, was Orpheus that gives, you know, the knowledge and the initiation for that age. There were a lot of wars in the Greco-Roman. It was the most ferocious one. If you remember 2,000 years ago, when it's ending, entertainment was watching lions kill people, crucifying people, and all kind of, and this carries, this energy of the Aries carries for another 1,000 years, if not. Then we come the Piscean age, and Rudolf Steiner says that, yes, the ages change. Like right now, we're starting Aquarius, but we're not going to feel it for 1,500 years more for majority of humans to reach that consciousness. So basically, when the age of Pisces starts, for another 1,500 years, the majorities are still in the age of Aries consciousness, even though constellations, you look, Pisces is coming. Pisces is compassion, the qualities of turn the other cheek, help others. But you see, gradually over the last 2,000 years, especially over the last 400-500 years, when he said Piscean energy actually became more general around the earth, we become more compassionate. We cannot tolerate seeing wars. People are protesting against it. It's a very gradual rise, but it's still a rise into those Piscean compassion, whatever. And during each of those phases, and the teacher was Jesus, but the being was Christ. The Christ, the actual being that all the ancients before that were talking, that's the highest being, comes in human. It takes, like Rudolf Steiner says, 17 million times to decrease in power to enter into the physical body of the human Jesus for 3 years, that being Christ. So it's kind of like that being Christ takes over the mind and the body of Jesus. And Jesus was actually the reincarnated Zarathustra from ancient Persia, very high level teacher, but he has human incarnations. That's why sometimes channelers and psychics, they say, well, Jesus is incarnated again. That's the Zarathustra teacher. While the actual Christ is only on earth for 3 years through the body of Jesus. The coming in of Christ happens at the river Jordan with the dove, and when God says he's my chosen. And for 3 years, there is this ritual created for the whole earth. And when the dying of Jesus Christ, we talk about it, his etheric body, the Christ body, which is part of the soul of the sun, permeates and stays forever with the earth. I told you that in the Hyperborean area, the earth separated from the sun. And because the vibrations of the sun were too high, and the entities that stayed on the sun were the archangelic hierarchies.
Mm-hmm.
And one time will come towards the end of the earth evolution, when the earth will merge with the sun again, because the entities here, the humans, will have enough vibration to merge with the sun. I'm not saying we'll be burnt. Rudolf Steiner and Ben Seduna says the sun looks like a ball to us, but actually with the etheric eyes is the most incredible paradise. Is the most incredible, you've never seen such beauty. Beings of incredible beauty and might are there. And ever since we've been suffering from the separation of the sun, we've been like, it's our high vibration, the separation from Christ, the creator. So what happened is that when Christ died on the cross, Rudolf Steiner sees with his psychic eyes, he says something incredible happens from the body of the Christ. The spirit spreads out, the Christ spirit, and engulfs the whole earth and merges with the earth and becomes the spirit of the earth. Our Gaia mother, which is a feminine energy, takes the spirit of Christ, and now, and he describes it, Rudolf Steiner, now it's like the sun, part of the sun has embraced the earth and is starting to pull it towards itself, to sun raise the vibration enough that we have the same vibration as the solar beings. I know it sounds like fantasy and fairy tales, but
no, it's beautiful.
So now already, since the coming of Christ, finally, the spirit of the sun is on earth, and it's working. It's been working. Before it was from above only. Initiates could reach Vishwakarma, or this high being, only through very rigorous initiation, 3 days locked in a pyramid, in a trance state, not trance, in a coma state, basically, to see the higher worlds. Now, since the coming of Christ, gradually, little by little, everyone, with no priest, with no intermediary, can reach this consciousness. It might be 10,000 years for one. It might be one lifetime for another. But it's going to happen. The birth of Christ within you, this connection with the solar force, will happen for everyone, and this transformation of the etheric body. Some yogis do it already. They can materialize, dematerialize, but it's not for all of us to do it till the end of the earth, epoch, which we're still at Pisces. We're starting the 6th one, which is called the Slavic one. The present one is the Anglo-Saxon, because you see that the Anglo-Saxon countries in the last 500 to 1,000 years have been the dominant colonial all the science comes from there. They have another 1,000 years for sure. The Aquarius time starting now, but it's gonna really become the dominant energy for everyone in 3,500, like Rudolf Steiner says it. But people that are advanced, or people that are aware of the approaching energy, they're already in the Aquarius energy. You, me, maybe other people. And the Aquarius energy, of course, brotherhood. This is the common individual wisdom and brotherhood. Common in the Piscean age is individual freedom. To learn to recognize our individual freedom, we still don't. Many people don't recognize this.
No, I know.
Aquarius age, common individual wisdom. We'll have our individual wisdom and our common that we feel it, and this is when the psychic abilities start coming back. Aquarius is the sign of telepathy, feeling another. It's like network, and it's the nervous system. Aquarius, your nervous system evolves enough that through your nervous system you can connect with others telepathically and on a spiritual level. Christianity reaches fulfillment only in the age of Aquarius, which is the next 4,000 years, basically, pretty much. It starts now, so imagine it will only be understood over the next 4,000 years, 3,000 years. And it will,
yes.
the kernel of this knowledge will be in the Eastern Europe, but it will spread everywhere around the world. But this is where the avatar also appeared. And Kras, you know who the avatar is for this age.
Master Bensaduno, of course.
Master Bensaduno, he comes at the very beginning of the dawn of the age of Aquarius. A dawn takes 300 years, 100 years ago. And he doesn't say it himself, but actually Krishnamurti says he is the teacher. Rudolf Steiner says he is the Miruv teacher. How is it called? The world teacher for this age. And Bensaduno says, I'm not going to tell you who I am. I don't want to scare you, but others will tell you. And Rudolf Steiner says that the world teacher for the age of Aquarius is born in he describes where it is and has a school 100 years ago. Krishnamurti, they wanted to say that Krishnamurti is the Maitreya, the reborn Jesus Christ. On the day he's supposed to announce it, he comes up and he says, it is not me. It is not me. He was very highly evolved spiritual person. He says it's the teacher, and it's not that Bensaduno was incarnated Jesus Christ. He says the true teacher is this and this. And so anyone, his work has not been fully translated now, but it will be the guiding force for the next 2,000 years, just like the Bible has been for the last 2,000. The Bible will always stay, but it's for consciousness that is for 2,000 years ago. And Bensaduno comes and explains, Petar Dunov Bensaduno, he comes and explains the mysteries of the Bible. He actually uses the Bible heavily, but he gives the interpretation, the scientific, the real interpretation, or kind of, let's say, more like the broken down for our most scientific logical mind. So how does Rudolf Steiner explain it, his lectures as well. They both are the two teachers, they're working together. Rudolf Steiner is working for the scientific, logically minded people. Bensaduno is giving the teachings for the heart. And he has everything from how to eat, how to sleep, how to absolutely everything, how to breathe, how to walk. He says you shouldn't do the same things from teachings from 5,000 years ago. They were given some breathing exercises and yogic exercises they were giving for involuting humanity that was still entering into the physical. He says now for Westerners and people of the West, the etheric body is too thickly connected with the physical body. Is not going to work, and it might do damage. So he gives actually much easier exercises, but they're more like in a dance form and a lot of singing. He says singing is one of the ways to transform your physical body. He gives songs and formulas and affirmations and everything. A lot of his work hasn't been translated. 27,000 lectures, the same as Rudolf Steiner, like they both have the same amount of lectures. They're giving something like very similar. Hundreds of books. And he's talking how life will be the brotherhood and it's going to be glorious. And he Bensaduno and Rudolf Steiner, they say that this in the 6 root race, so the 6 period, which starts now and will be the next 2,000-3,000 years, will the most evolved, they're the ones who complete this evolution and build the etheric body, which is kind of a conscious work. You build the etheric body through building virtues, patience, all those Christian principles, but stamina, patience, compassion, proper eating, and so on. Then those from the six, I don't know if you see my mouse.
Yeah, I see.
The Aquarians, a group of them will seed the sixth epoch. Now we're in the post-Atlantean, which has two more, the sixth and the seventh. But from the sixth is taken a group that seeds the sixth epoch, and Bin Saduno says the sixth epoch is 100,000 years. He says this will be the light people. So now we're the post-Atlantean, the normal modern person, in about 3,000 to 4,000 years. So now starts the seeds of the sixth root race, as they call it, with the age of Aquarius. So the perfected human form will be created over the next 2,000 years. Well, we'll be creating it this time. Let me show you something. What comes, individual, the age, common individual wisdom. No, something else I wanted to show. The sixth root race, we're now the European, we're building the etheric body. The second coming should happen within the next 1,500 years till the middle of the age of Aquarius, which means if Christ will be born in someone, basically, this is the spiritual awakening. It will happen in this period.
Wada, do they mention about apocalypse, the one that is mentioned in the Bible?
You know, it comes after the seventh race. It's called the war of all against the war of all. Look at the timing, 5,734 AD, 7,894 AD. And because it's the seventh one of the post-Atlantean, Rudolf Steiner says there is, you know, this human race is split into good and evil. By that time, the year 5,000 or whatever, everyone who is virtuous, they look very differently than everyone who chooses. And he says the majority will be probably 50-50, I don't know, or 75% stay behind, 25 are evolve into the next stage. I'm not sure what percentage he gave, but I think it was something 75-25, but I'm not sure if the 25% are the stragglers or the 70, but I'll think it is this way. 75 are the ones that build the etheric body. They have already like almost like the saints around them, light, and they're psychic. The schools are extremely different. Anyone who wants to read how the sixth stream will look, the sixth race, not race, the sixth cultural epoch, which General Leadbeater has a book where he sees 700 years into the future, and it's called the sixth root race. And these are the first communities 600 years from now. And he describes their schools, he describes how they eat. It's the most beautiful book. I wonder why people don't make movies like that. He describes how they eat. He describes how their different temples, and where you go, there's temple of light, temple of sound, temple of, because there are four types of people, ones that carry the earth element, the fire, the water, the air. So each of those temples has different color. In one, they heal by sound, and people just gather there, and they says you just stay there in the colors or in the sounds, and you're vibrating, and he says you receive like an orgasm. It's incredible. And children at school, he describes the schools are visualize an object who can first manifest it and stuff like that, you know. Some are ahead, some are behind. The other one is send a message to someone, but this will be happening. But yes, they will be, they say at the end, something that kind of destroys things. The war of all against all, Rudolf Steiner says it's not going to be like a physical war with guns and stuff. It's very different. It's more like a spiritual war, and there is a destruction. But Also, they've seen that usually there is some big cataclysm between each of those new stages.
Sub-eras, yeah.
Yes, the smaller ones.
Mm.
Ruth Bin Saduno says that, and by the way, once we finish the Earth, then after the sixth epoch comes the seventh epoch. We have a few 100,000 years, then
Oh,
maybe a few million years still on the physical Earth. But many, if you complete, some people can complete their evolution now at the age of Aquarius. They won't need to come until the next Jupiter stage. Whoever builds the etheric body doesn't need to come then at the seventh epoch or the sixth epoch, or unless they want to help. They can just wait out till the Jupiter period, which will be only in the etheric. The Earth will not be physical then. This is the 5D.
oh.
This is the 5D that they're talking about, the Jupiter stage. The
So
New
basically,
Jerusalem.
the wars now are happening because we are entering another sub-period.
Yes, we're the age of Aquarius.
Yes, yes, but because they speak also about major war against everyone, war between
Rudolf
everyone
Steiner says it's at the very end, so a few
at the
thousand
very end.
years. But Bin Saduno says within a few hundred years of me, no longer, a fire will come that will shake up the earth, an earthquake. Bin Saduno, he says that if you don't listen, there will be. He first says there will be a first world war. That's before the world war starts. On the first world war, he says, if they don't agree, there will be a second world war. It will be 10 times more destructive. If they don't agree, then in 100 years
Third
will
war.
come third world war. And he says the Chinese will be involved, and it will be so destructive and so short. But in the middle of that third world war, if it starts, because might last 10 days only, bam, bam, a few nuclear, you never know. And he says if this one starts, he says the God's not gonna allow it, so he's gonna shake up the earth, and it's such an incredible earthquake will start that will start from Northern Europe, and he says it will shake for 3 days. He says whatever is built, not a stone will stay upon a stone. And then the ones that survive, they'll in this horror, they'll turn to God, and this is the age of Aquarius beginning. He says within 100 to 200 years, every soul pretty much that is on earth will carry the Christ principle. But he says there'll be a lot less people. He sees it, and Sevrukova, who is a saint as well,
Said it too.
she said, I'm a couple of thousand years into the future. I'm not sure, but it's far, far ahead. I have to fly or pass kilometers to meet a soul. But when I see it, the Christ is in them. They're evolved master. He says a lot less humans, but they live divinely. So this beautiful life is very close. And from then on is always, I'm not, he says this war against war is not going to be physical. It's going to be the ones that have left remain, that are refusing to evolve, with the ones that are very evolved, like those souls, that there'll be some kind of I'm not sure, energy war maybe.
Yes, yes, yes,
Of
yes.
some sort. And then starts the sixth root race, where humans are still physical, but they're glowing. And actually, by the end of by the year 5, 6,000, 7,000 AD, the reproductive organs of humans start changing. And the larynx and the heart will turn into a reproductive organ. So we'll be talking out, we'll be creating through the throat. And that will become common for everyone 5, 6,000 years from now, but the beginning will be, the start of this will be from the year 5,000, in the seventh post-Atlantean, in the seventh period post-Atlantean. Now we're starting the sixth, in the seventh, this will start changing. So humans like, I want to create a child, I speak it out, I imagine. It seems magical to me, but Rudolf Steiner says humans were at all not the same. What we think 1,000, 2,000 years, they thought differently. If you were to enter the body and experience what someone from 5,000 years ago experiencing, says it will be a totally alien experience to you, because
Oh,
they
sure.
had intuitions, they were seeing other stuff that we couldn't see. He said they would look at the sky and they would see stories moving. They would see entities. They could not think. They could not think logically. It's totally, they had different organs. He says, nowadays we cannot see what the organs were of someone born 10,000 years ago. Their heart was made differently, their internal organs. And he says in around the year 5,000, 7,000, the heart actually has the muscles of voluntary contraction, and scientists are wondering why the heart moves involuntary, but it's the beginning of this process, because we'll be able to voluntarily use the heart like some yogis can do, but then to create, whether it's you create with your word and the larynx mixing it, so through the word you'll be speaking out and creating, like maybe some Sai Baba, or they say banana. You created. It's but it's going up, guys. Just choose to be on the natural stream of evolution. The ones that is regressing, they'll use mechanical means, bionic, whatever, and being Saduno and Rudolf Steiner said they'll look more and more like animals. The physical, because the etheric body becomes stronger and stronger, and it imprints on the physical what is in your soul. So he says humans of the future will be so beautiful you cannot imagine. The ones that are evolving, the ones that are building the virtues. He says you like a saint. They would look like imagine the most beautiful, perfect features, whatever. Well, the ones that I'm not saying that nowadays, if someone is not physically attractive, they are morally corrupt. Not at all. This is
No,
not
no,
a
no.
they
No,
stay
sure
for
not.
like a few thousand years. But he says it will be more and more the trend, because now there are very attractive people who are morally so corrupted and
Oh, yes.
but because the etheric is not strong enough to imprint the qualities of the soul onto the because the etheric body builds the physical body, but when we build it strong enough, it will imprint, the good qualities of the soul of the
Oh,
body, just like you can read qualities nowadays from
on
the
the face.
hand, on the face. You say, oh, this person has strong will because they have a strong, jaw. Or this person angers easy because here it's wide. Or this person is very wise, they have a very tall, So we'll be able, all those high evolved qualities will be
You
imprinted.
see on the
People
face.
won't think nowadays that they're so beautiful, because our sense of beauty is different nowadays.
By the way, Wada Ben Saduno has a book which is about how he was, what was the name? He would describe absolutely every feature on the face and its meaning.
Yes, he did everything. He was
He did everything.
how to grow vegetables, what fruit gives what moral values. Vince Duno said, if you eat cherries, it will give you it will enhance the moral, and eat cherries on the Venus day, because they're Venus fruit on Friday. Eat cherries on a Friday, they would give you gentleness and
I
loving.
remember the peas. He's saying the one who eats peas is beautiful.
Peas is a Venus fruit. Peas on Friday again. If you want to be wise, eat the dark blue vegetables and fruits, which is like plums, on a Thursday, the day of Jupiter. If you want to be, so it's amazing. He has the colors.
Yes,
I hope
everything.
someone translates all this work. Maybe we
Oh, big part. Very, very big part now is translated. Very,
okay.
very big.
But it's just
It-
so vast. It's so hard to find this to whatever you're reading for.
Oh, he predicted also that most of his lectures would be disappearing and would be manipulated. That's why, I'm buying, searching, and I'm buying always the old ones, which are published in the 40s, in the 20s.
By the
We
students,
need
because
to
they
buy
were
them.
walking behind him all the time and constantly writing everything down. Constantly,
Yes,
he was
exactly.
such a high level. Sometimes he was giving lectures at two places at the two ends of Bulgaria at the same time, in Varna and in Sofia, which are 400 kilometers away. And he gave the same lecture, two different lectures, and people were even writing because he could do that. They were saying oftentimes in his room, they'll see light beings, suddenly the room in the middle of the night illuminated with incredible colors, and they would witness miracles. They would walk they're going to the mountains. He took them to the mountains because he said, this is where people should go. Mountains are the purest energy. Always when you feel heavy, when you are upset, go walk in the mountains to clean yourself, to purify. And suddenly in front of there were a group of 200 students, and they saw in the sky angels dancing, a beautiful angel, and they heard the music. And Bin Sadunu said, this is panurhythmy, the dance of the new age. I'll give it to you. So he gave the movements and the music for it. So now we dance it in the real mountains where
Even in Africa, they dance it.
Even in Africa, everywhere in the world, they dance it. It's a beautiful dance which describes astrological symbolism, the sun, the rays, and spiritual.
And it's a remedy for your horoscope because he has a square. There are all these aspects and shapes in the horoscope. And he says this is a remedy for you. He has the pentagram of Venus.
Oh, yeah. And he gave back, he says, astrology in the age of Aquarius will come back and it will be the most important science.
Which happens.
He revived astrology because till then in Bulgaria, we have nothing like that.
It was forbidden. In the communism, it was forbidden when he would give astrology.
Well, he gave it before that, but he revived basically the Russian and Bulgarian astrological school starts with Bin Sadunu. And he says it wasn't necessary till now, astrology. He said, till now it was forbidden for 2000 years because people could misuse it. Now you evolved enough and I'll give you the esoteric astrology. So yeah, he says astrology will be the biggest science. They were incredible prophecies.
Incredible.
We moved from Rudolf Steiner to Bin Sadunu.
They connected, you know, they...
Yes. They were both each other students. They were the teachers of the age.
And Rudolf Steiner gave the eurythmics, the paneurythmics,
which is very similar.
Yeah, they were so connected. Yes.
So
it makes perfect sense.
Bruno had only couple of books ever in his tiny room, and one of them was in Steiner's book. And Steiner died 30 years before Bin Sadunu, and Bin Sadunu never has met him, but he said he's always at the lectures. And he says, oh, teacher, I find it fascinating how you explain such complex things, because Rudolf Steiner uses very complex language in his lectures. He's very scientific. He says, how you explain such complex spiritual topics in such simple everyday words. That's why Bin Sadunu said, I'm here for the normal people. Rudolf Steiner is for those with scientific mindset, more for the Western world. And Bin Sadunu said, I'm more for the people of the heart, which are more like the Eastern Europeans, but I mean, for everyone. Anyway, that's enough.
That's enough. Just one last very beautiful thing to say. Maybe we said it last time. I don't remember. Remember Boyan Boev, one of his students, he went to Austria to study. No, it was not Austria by that time. What was it? It was
Austria.
Yeah, it was Austria. Yeah.
Hungarian.
And he wanted to study with Steiner, but Steiner said, no, go back to Bulgaria because now the most magnificent teacher, the real master is born. And he really came back to Bulgaria and was one of the best students of Bin Sadunu at that time.
Yeah, even the Pope came. The Pope came to Bin Sadunu. The kings were coming, and he would always say, stop the wars, don't start. He told Bulgaria, don't go in the king. The king calls him and he says, don't go to the war because the king wanted to go with Germany. So Bin Sadunu tells him, Germany will lose, don't go. You'd lose big parts of your territory. The king goes.
and we lost big parts of the territory.
And Bin Sadunu said, if you go, not only will Bulgaria lose the war, but and then during the war, Hitler says to the Bulgarian king, I want all the Jews on trains to Germany, 100,000 Jews. The king puts them on trains, preparing to leave, but disappears because he feels very guilty. And Bin Sadunu says, find me the king. He says to one of his students, go to the king and tell him this message. And the student says, no one can find him. He's hiding. The king is hiding. And Bin Sadunu closes his eyes, meditates, and he is in his residence here and there and there. Go and find him and tell him. And the student goes and says, Master Bin Sadunu said that if you put the Jewish people and send them to Hitler, all your family, all your children will die out. It will be interrupted. And the king gets scared and doesn't send the Jewish people and all the Bulgarian Jewish people were saved. and his lineage survived. But it's incredible stories.
Shame their lineage survived because these were the Anglo-Saxons, you know. Shame their lineage survived. You know, very funny. What when I was in Israel 3 years ago with my son, and we just entered a shop, and the lady's coming to us, and she's saying, "Where are you from?" I'm saying, "I'm Bulgarian." She started crying, and she said, "You protected our Jewish," and we were crying together in the shop.
Oh,
It was the most beautiful thing. She said, "Oh, Bulgarian, we love you because you." She was elderly lady, but you know, she said, "You, our Jewish people, you were so protected because also the Bulgarians would, they were closed, you know, and they wouldn't allow the food supplies wouldn't reach the villages, and the people would give them, you know, food through." And they said, "You, the what you did to for our Jewish people, everyone knows." That she was crying, and I cannot forget it. Yeah, it's very, very amazing.
yeah,
Thank
we
you.
jump from so many topics now.
Oh, yes. No, it's beautiful. Wada, this was amazing. Gave me comfort that actually everything is for good. I'm sure people will understand it also in a similar way.
It's a perfect plan. Everything is pre-planned. 7 rounds with 7 sub-rounds with 7 sub-rounds. We're gonna pass through them, and for each one, different part of our consciousness develop. And for this current one, the 5th one, we need to go through the wars. The 6th one, it will be brotherhood, peace, amazing. Well, I hope it was tomorrow, but if we're here, it's much more interesting. It's much more interesting
Well,
than peace,
we
kumbaya,
took
and
over a little bit more of burden than we can take, maybe, because if it will be so. Look what is happening in the Middle East, and it's very tragic. It's yeah, these people took over more than they can carry, you know, when they were planning their incarnation. But anyway,
yeah, there is a danger that, and the Third World War is known to start in the Middle East for exactly what the warring is starting now. And like Bin Suduno says, if it starts and China will get involved, and it will get very ugly, it will be very fast. It will have 10 times more casualty than the last World War, which was 50 million, 500 million, I think even.
which was enormous still.
And he said that, and then the earth cataclysms will start. They won't be like the sinking of Atlantis, where the whole
Everything was
America
same.
sink, but a big parts will, big parts. And this says this will turn people towards God in 1 second, because it's not war anymore. It's divine, you know, earthquake. And people will turn and start praying, and whoever is, their heart will turn immediately.
Yes. Well,
Anyway,
ladies and gentlemen, smile. This was not so negative. Wada even gave us some good predictions.
Third World War, earthquakes.
Just let's go to sleep, and tomorrow we wake up in this 6th cultural wave. Well, Wada, thank you. This was amazing. I loved it. Thank you so millions much.
Thank you for inviting me. We'll do this another time for something.
Yes, you promise now. I record this promise.
I can gather stories for Bin Saduno. There are 20 books with stories from his students describing miracles.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this would be lovely. This would be lovely. Oh, the stories are truly amazing.
Okay.
Thank you, Wada. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.